dense evergreen jungle stands in your path. Beautiful spots of colorful flora cut through the giant leaves and winding vines. Your exploration crew has been planning this for months, and the time has finally arrived. Now, one final bit of preparation. One last look at the supplies checklist. Backpack to carry essentials, an oversized hat to block the sun, a deck of cards for a moment of fun, and a trustworthy compass that always points towards adventure. Welcome back to another episode of the Ink Table Podcast, a Lorcana podcast where a group of fellow Illumineers gather around the metaphorical ink table and share their table talk with you. So if you enjoy lore, art, a sense of community, comedic banter, or just all things Disney, then pull up a seat and join hosts Dylan Bailey and Preston McNair as we discuss the first few weeks with Wilds Unknown and the summer adventures that lie ahead.
And man, has it been a busy past few weeks with our introduction into Wilds Unknown. Thanks everybody for pulling up a seat here to the ink table alongside me, my co-host Preston, and our producer John. In this episode, we will be going over our experiences in that time that we have had so far over this past few weeks, especially that pre-release weekend, how the pull rates have changed in this set, a look ahead at the Infinity format and the way that it's shaping up currently, how Preston is prepping for DLC Indianapolis, and then some community-inspired rule updates that's coming to competitive play, our excitement to be returning to Gen Con, some updates on some products that are coming out, and maybe a couple more things here or there.
We need some
Been
jungle
busy.
hats. We need to dress
Yeah,
up
we
as
really
like
need
the
one.
Jungle Cruise people. Because I know your son had a hat. What was it? Was it League last week or was it pre-release? I forget.
I
He
think
had
it's
like a
pre-release.
jungle hat.
He had it.
Pre-release.
Yeah. I have
Yeah.
one that I got at Animal Kingdom one time, and I have no clue where it was because we were going to match. But yeah, we need like skipper outfits and stuff.
That's what we needed for
Go-
the remaining 8 or 7 weeks we have at this point. So
Go find the backside of water. But I guess let's just hop right into it with pre-release weekend. Let's go back in time a couple of weeks here because we really haven't got to talk a whole lot, especially with our audience since then. But man, these pull rates, what the heck is going on?
It's nuts. I don't even know where to start with this. We'll talk about like our pulls in a second, but at this point we have 2 unboxings open. We opened up 2 boxes on the YouTube channel. Check those out. But pull rates are up, and what we mean by pull rates is, legendary and through enchanted. I think is a safe assumption.
Yeah, I mean, I would say so, including legendary, epics, the enchanted, your big hits, right? So how often those are pulled? Because typically, going back and looking at it, I think whenever we've been opening boxes for a long time now, for a very long time. John can speak more to that better than I can because he gets a case and has gotten a case for every set since I think Azurite C or around that time. But typically in a box, you would get probably about 5 legendaries max, 5 to 6. You would be lucky to get
box.
1 enchanted. Yeah, that's if it's a good box. And you would be lucky to get an enchanted in a case. Then the epics came along. They kind of threw a wrench into everything a little bit, and maybe you'd see 1 to 2 epics. But these, I don't know what's going on. But it's not just us. The entire community overall, watching other people's unboxings, the interactions, and everything that we've seen, these hits on legendaries and even the enchanteds are extremely high. And I think with that being said, we can break the news and kind of hop into our top of the top pools here because this is the most enchanteds or we have ever seen, like collectively as the ink table between your household, my household, John's household. This is the most we have ever seen pulled at one time, essentially.
Looking at, and we'll just kind of go in order here. We'll take a look at my hits. So we had a total of 4 enchanteds pulled in pre-release weekend. That count has since gone up to 5 because on big box I was out running errands. I grabbed a singular pack and opened up Touch the Sky. But there's a few things like. I don't even know. Like we have not organized this conversation because there's just so many angles we can take this. But basically, let's talk about the pre-release kits for a moment. So the pre-release kits we'll talk about again for a moment. But a big question I think we all had going into pre-release was, are enchanted iconics possible? And on pre-release, we had, I think, at store number 1, I think we had 3 enchanteds pulled out of the pre-release boxes, and we pulled the Family Scattered. I think your son pulled Mr. Incredible, played with it,
Yep.
uh,
Yeah.
played with it, and I think we had one other one. But out of the booster box 1, we got Isabella Madrigal, beautiful gold foiling. In the box spoiler box you're going to see on the YouTube channel coming up soon, pulled the enchanted What Else Can I Do. So we're very Madrigal coded this time around. And then at pre-release number 2, my wife again pulled enchanted Kita out of it, not to mention the Touch This Guy. So 5 enchanteds here, and I feel like we've exhausted all luck because that's easily double the amount of enchanteds we normally see on a regular throughout an entire set, really. And that's just us buying very limited products. But I mean, your pulls as well were also insane.
Yeah, I mean, as a household, right? So I think I've opened a little bit more product, but at the same time, it has been insane. And going back to those pre-release kits, like you were talking about, my son pulled the Mr. Incredible at our first pre-release event. My daughter, at the second pre-release event, sitting right next to you, pulled the Alien. And then in a prize pack afterwards, we got the Leviathan. And then I was fortunate enough in one of the boxes. Yeah, I bought 2 boxes this time, and in one of the boxes I pulled the Syndrome. The Syndrome I have since traded away to actually get my chase card from this set and my wife's chase card from last set, because I traded it for Touch the Sky and Colors of the Wind. So either way, 2 enchanteds for the price of 1 was a pretty good deal. I know that they're both songs and this is a character, but I really like the art on Colors of the Wind. I know my wife was excited about that. And then the art on Touch the Sky is just absolutely beautiful. And my enchanteds have actually increased to 5 as well, I think, from actual pulls from this set. Because since then, might have been a trove that I opened, I pulled the You've Got a Friend in Me. Really big hit.
Oh yeah. So that brings, I guess, your total up to 5. Same.
Yeah.
5.
Mm-hmm.
And then John just happened to join the Madrigal crew.
Yeah, just happened to. Hang on, let me get get the picture up here. I opened the case. I didn't get to do as many pre-releases as you guys did. I only got to do 1, so I only got 1 pre-release, and numbers were against me this time, but I only hit 3. I say only hit 3, but those were all in 1 case. So I bought 5 boxes. The 5th box didn't have a enchanted in it because it's a TikTok box and it never does. If I didn't open it on TikTok, it would have had it would have had an enchanted in it because I can never get
You've
that
been doing
lucky.
the TikTok box for 3 or 4 sets now, and
Yeah.
the TikTok box has never had an enchanted
It's never had hardly anything in it. It's always the dud box, so it's weird. So, but that's all right. That's fine. But yeah, I got Mrs. Incredible, the family, and Louisa. So it was madrigals all around this time around.
And where the episode is up, but the pack that you pulled the Mrs. Incredible from was a double legendary pack as well.
Yeah, that
Which
was
is
so weird.
silly.
Yeah. I actually bought a couple random packs the other day and thought, well, I was in Target. I'd forgotten my toothbrush, so I had to go buy a toothbrush because the ones they give you in the hotel are pretty crappy. And it it was a double legendary too. I thought, ooh, is this another double legend? Oh no, wait, it's just a regular old foil. That's fine. No big deal.
So, and I think I know we don't have like immediate data on legendaries right now, but I think I would say our average legendary count was at least 5 legendaries per box. I think is a safe assumption throughout all of us. I would assume at least five.
I think so. Yeah, and that brings us back to what we started talking about here was
Yeah,
before coming into previous sets, 5 or 6 legendaries was a that was if it was a top of the line, like this is a great box to open. So for us to hit that same amount and be like, this was a dud box. If it, I mean, it's not a dud box, but like just in comparison to seeing 9 legendaries in a box or 7 to 8 legendaries in a box, getting 5, that was at the bottom end of the spectrum statistically this time, whereas in previous sets that was at the high end. So there's definitely something that's changed, and I know that we'll never actually get that information, right? Because they're not going to share that information. But this is great to see. And I guess the big question overall is this going to last? Because something that happens in other TCGs, just keeping up with them for years and years and years now, the pull rates change from set to set. This is the first time we're really seeing it. This could be a one off thing where it's just for Wilds Unknown, or it could be something that sticks around. We have no clue. I don't even know how to give an opinion on this because my heart wants it to stick around. I enjoyed this so much. I think that it really opened up the pack opening experience and made it more joyful. And financially, I know that's not something we talk about too much, but it kick down that barrier of entry for so many people in a set that was bringing a lot of new players to this game simply because of the new IP and Pixar being introduced, especially Toy Story bringing so many people in. And I know collectors aren't necessarily the happiest, or a certain group of collectors aren't necessarily the happiest because of the prices not seeing $40 Dumbos, right? Or the Cinderellas and stuff. We don't have legendaries right now that are setting at $30 to $40. I think the highest is probably the Dell, which we assumed was going to
twelve
happen
dollars.
before the set even released.
Twelve
And
dollars.
even then, he's 12, and
Twelve
then even
dollars
his
for the
foil is
expensive
what,
legendary.
18,
His foil is 19. The
19. So it's
exception
slightly up.
The exception is Snow White. Her foil connecting art is $11. So yeah, right now, every single legendary, with the exception of Woody, Merida, and Dale, is under $3.
That's insane. I don't think we've ever had a set like this. And it really does make the collecting opportunity, if you want full play sets to be able to do so, much more accessible. If you want access to cards that are good, or just cards in general to build decks around, you now have that access. Is I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong. We really haven't got to talk too much, but you just put in a TCG player order and finished off this set.
Finished off the playset of legendaries for $20.
There
And
you
I
go.
think, and it's very rare buying 1 or 2 boxes back in the day that you would complete a playset of legendaries just because the pull rates are so high. We completed our playset of Dales, Meridas, Woodies, and Sids, and Queens, Ursulas, Mr. Incredible, Mrs. Incredible. And there's a few in here, like I think Kita. I don't think I rounded out Kita because I don't think I'm gonna need 4 Kitas right away. But being able to not only go to pre-release, open up one, I got a free booster box because of trade-in, but the fact that we were able to complete the legendaries we wanted for $20 is insane. Like, because easily back in Dumbo Land before Richmond, I was placing a TCG order for $80 to $100 to finish off Dumbos because I needed them for Richmond.
Right.
So I, and again, they don't disclose pull rates. They never will. They probably will never will. I can't say never. Um, I think they're here to stay. And I think the reason why I believe that is Obviously, they cranked the knob a little bit. They really cranked things up. They turned it to 11 on the play sets. If they reduce it in Attack of the Vine and go back to where we were, that's going to be a very bad player sentiment. And I don't think that overall would go very well. So I don't want to say they can't go back because they definitely can, but if they did, I think a lot of people, including myself, and I'm sure a lot of others, would probably be like, so we went from a very poor box opening experience to a fantastic one, and now we're going back. I don't think that would go too well, and I think that's why they're going to be here this day.
In my heart of hearts, I truly want to believe it, but for so many different reasons. I mean, this was so exciting to open all of these packs that we did, but ultimately, at the end of the day, this is a business. And I think that this would have been an awesome opportunity for them to build hype around this product the way that they clearly have, while also doubling down and knowing that you have all of these new Illuminaires coming into this game for the first time. It just makes sense for them to have doubled down, increase the pull rates, build hype, get people to purchase products. I want it to stick around, and I guess right now we'll have to wait and see. And it wouldn't surprise me if they do reverse it in some way, shape, or form, or slightly decrease it, right? Because we don't even know what the actual statistics or data was behind the original stuff. It's not disclosed. I'm sure that
Yeah.
there are groups out
And
there that were gathering information and putting them together, but it's still not disclosed.
I would say this, the iconics don't appear to be touched, at least based off community observations. Obviously, enchanteds are a little bit higher, but the iconics are still extremely, extremely rare because I feel like if they would have increased the iconic rates, we probably would have saw one between all the product that was sold from our two shops. Just kind of looking at just number of packs opened. Um, but I did want to mention that because it still seems that the iconics they are still extreme. If they increased it, it was by this much, like not much, this
Yeah.
much, but like they're still very rare.
I don't know, man. I think we've seen 3 pulled in our local area, at
That
least,
is
right?
true.
So we've seen at least 2 Buzz and a Merida. Or, yeah.
Yeah, two Buzz and a Merida,
So,
and that's usually we usually see at least 2 to 3, like in one set. So that's kind of trending. Now, obviously, the individual blister packs you can get at Target and all this other stuff. That's the Wild West. I think that's going to be the highest unknown variable, just because. But
mhm.
yeah, hey, we'll see. We'll see. But I think it would be very. It's going to be a very tough community sentiment if they go back. So it's just whether or not they want to weather that storm or not. But we'll see.
We will see. But talking about pre-release real quick, we always we typically enjoy pre-release or the sealed experience, right? That's one of our favorite formats that we've always talked about on this podcast. Outside of that, the first chapter experience that I had at Gen Con last year, that John surely remembers whenever I went 0-3 during that, and we came back to Chateau de Ink Table, and then it told him and broke the news to him, and he was said words that we can't repeat here. But
We can.
this
Johnson's
was
gonna be really hot on
tough.
the bleep.
So we had a super tough time. I think the two of us did, and even at the first pre-release event we attended, we were next to each other building our decks, and we kind of just looked at each other and was like, I'm not sure
What do
what's
we
going
do
on
here?
here. This is yeah. See, I'm a big fan of adding in some like tech based cards and having like an item or two. There was just you would think coming into this set with the different synergies that we have with the toys, supers, and the madrigals and everything like that, with them being spread out and diversified across 3 different inks, not just 1 or 2, that this would have been pretty simple. But I had a really hard time deck building in this sealed format for wilds, and I also think part of that had to do with so many of the cards that had the effects or whatever, where if 2 or more cards entered your discard display, then you get so many extra effects or whatever. That was hard to pull off in this set.
The
So
franchises, the franchises were very combo oriented. Atlantis wanted things to go into your discard. The Madrigals depended on other Madrigals being in play and also moving damage, and the supers needed other supers in play. So, and
I think
then
the
I
toys
think
did too.
the toys did too, and Rescue Rangers were very high willpower. So it's kind of a little bit more thematic this go around too.
But unless you were able to lock down, like, I have a bunch of toys or I have a bunch of this, then even those synergies were kind of hard to pull off and they were random. But I think that we've came to a group consensus here. We still had a great time at Sealed, especially since we have these amazing new products, which we've also agreed this is the best thing that Ravensburger has done for Disney Lorcana since the game has started. These pre-release boxes were absolutely amazing. They were so fun to open up. I I can't say enough about them. Everybody else has already talked about them. They were awesome, and I think the entire community agrees. But instead of talking about our MVP cards that we had at Sealed and the ones that stood out the most to us, I think this time around we're going to take a different approach and we're going to talk about those big bads that we hated playing against, the ones that slapped us around more than anybody else. So, just to kick it off, talking about slapping people around, uh, this fat cat, felonious feline, right? This is not the other fat cat that gives your locations resist, but this is a 6 cost inkable 6/6 that quest for 2 with resist 1. I have found that Wilds Unknown Sealed was all about getting big, strong bodies on the field and just slapping into each other until your opponent is just knocked out. That's all this was for me. Was I did not have the big meaty guys that could slap meat with the other big meaty guys, and I was playing against this fat cat, resist 1. He was just dominant. He could quest for 2. Anything I put on the field, he could just take out and survive. And then there was like at one point there was no reason for me to even smack into him because I wasn't getting anywhere with him at all. I tend to have a lower curve in sealed, maybe mostly 3 drops, 4 drops, I want to say, but you definitely had to slot in some like 5 and 6 cost cards in this set or whatever. And Fat Cat was just once he was on the field, I couldn't do anything to this guy.
Resist is, and something we'll talk about in Infinity discussions, is there are mechanics that are fundamentally, I say unfair, not from a game standpoint, but just from a like power standpoint. Resist is unfair. Like resist is a great mechanic. It's not played with enough. And whenever you put a fat cat behind it, yeah. And 6 ink isn't impossible, especially whenever you have cards like Ham that can get things out for a lot cheaper. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But then moving on to your pick, Preston.
I
I know
hate the
this lady
Incredible.
was a talk of the town, man.
Mirage. Primarily from the standpoint that everyone had Mirage and I didn't. Like it just seemed like everyone I played had Mirage and they had a very low cost Violet Par or someone else to play. In sealed, you will inevitably end up in a top deck situation, and any sort of card draw that you can get to slow down the inevitable of you going into a top deck situation is so valuable. So there's a few, but I think just from a pure resource standpoint, it seemed like everyone had Mirage. But then you couple this up together with the super relocation program. Granted, she's not a super, but that was probably going to be my second pick. Was it's the super relocation program where if you have you can return a super back and you get like 2 cards or something like that. It's crazy. You can return any card, I think, but I think if it's a super, you get 2 cards. Yeah, it just seemed like I was pretty low on my resources, and I think walking away from sealed again, we had a fantastic time. Getting the postcards was fun. Getting the stamp promos was fun, But thank goodness Gen Con is not going to be, the sealed is not going to include Wilds Unknown because, oh my
Yeah, because
lord.
Attack of the Vine will be out by then.
I remember looking over and Dylan looked at me. He's like, "We're gonna have to deal with this at Gen." Like Dylan had his head in his hand. He's like, "This is gonna be a Gen Con thing." I'm like, "No, we're good." Like the set's halfway over at this point. We're good. Super fun. The I really want to build a super deck. Unfortunately, I just haven't had a whole lot of time to do it. But yeah, it just seemed like everyone had Mirage and I didn't. And
So, what's interesting about the Mirage and that super relocation program that you were talking about is the fact that, yes, you could play into the super synergy, and we talked about how difficult it was to have synergy in this format. You didn't need super synergy for either of those cards because she also plays along with heroes, and there are so
yeah,
many different heroes within Disney Lorcana. Even the super relocation program, I know we don't have an image on screen, but you're right, it's return any chosen character of yours to your hand. But if you returned a hero character this way, you get to draw 2 cards. So I suppose that all supers are technically heroes
yep.
for the time being, but it's just the fact that like there are so many different heroes in general from every ink color. Like it didn't even have to be an incredible.
Because there's so many. I feel like they've been very generous with the hero tag. Um, Past 2 sets, I feel, especially with some of the franchises we've got. But no, it was great. And also for those listening, like if you did not have the chance to go and experience a pre-release, chances are your local GameStop still probably has those pre-release kits laying around. They are MSRP of $40 US, but it's enough for a few rounds of Pack Rush. It's Yeah, I think at least one round of Pack Rush. I feel between 2 players. I think if you take one box and split it, um, I think, and I know we've talked about it a little bit, but I think in those pre-release kits, I think the consensus was at least one legendary in each pre-release box. Epics are a little up
It
in the
felt
air.
like it. Sometimes more.
Sometimes more. I know I did not have any epics in my one pre-release kit, but um, I think it's worth checking out. Like we always said that if you uh, can't buy a lot of sealed product, get a trove. That point still stands. But maybe look at a pre-release kit because the postcard was fun, the stamp promo was fun. Uh, yeah, they're probably still hanging around.
Still get your dice. Not as many, but then moving on from pre-release, we're in a season right now. It's a strange season. Yes, summer is coming up. Spring is still kind of here and lingering, but we are officially in infinity season.
It's a weird time. Um, the set is already so short to begin with. 10 weeks, I think, was what we said was 10 weeks.
Hmm.
Uh, Infinity is currently the talk of the town right now, and for good reason. There's premier level events in the Infinity format. And for those who might not be familiar, there's 2 formats in Lorcana. There is Core Constructed that does the set rotations and legalities, and then there's Infinity, with the exception of Hiram's Leadership. Infinity is the format where all cards are legal except for any cards on the ban list. Um, right now, and the reason why a lot of these cards feel so different is because there's a whole other lens that these cards are getting looked at. Because right now I feel like there's kind of 2 groups of Lorcana players right now. There's players that are very core constructive focus, and maybe there's not a good reason to look at Infinity outside of like any gameplay at home or maybe some casual events that are coming up at local game shops. Some stores they rotate formats. They do sealed, core, and Infinity. They rotate through 3 weeks here locally. So maybe you don't have a very, I don't want to say good reason because there's always good reason to look at Lorcana, right? But maybe there's not a a crazy reason why you should look at the format. And then there's another group of people that are attending either a local competitive or a premier level event. And we'll talk about some things coming up, but if you are attending one of those competitive or premier level events, I do think it's worth checking out the format because you want to get some preparation, right? I think everyone wants to at least stand on one leg of these things, but it is a whole different world. I have I know John and Dylan look at Affinity a little bit whenever events coming up. I started looking at Affinity a week before Wilds Unknown, and my mind is just it's blown. Like it is so different from what we are used to in core.
Yeah, I don't know. I think this is your bag here because Infinity it's happening. We're in the thick of it. We just had the Ink open in the past weekend. The Citrus Clash is currently ongoing right now.
Today,
And then I know
right.
locally that there is a 1K coming up that another store is putting on. And heck, maybe we could look into doing something like that at ours in the near future. Then you have Dortmund and Indy, and those two are the biggest ones, right? Because these are the DLCs that will be taking place in that have the Infinity format instead of the core constructed format. I still have the prediction that they are doing this, and I know there was a lot of questions as to why in the beginning, right? Whenever they announced the schedule. I still truly believe that whenever the World Championship comes around, players will have to not only participate in core constructed, but they will have to play in the Infinity format as well. Kind of like last year's World Champs, right? You had to do the what was it, a
Super Seal.
sealed format, super sealed before they moved on to core constructed and then into the triple deck. I think it will be Infinity core constructed triple deck, and they're going ahead and even if players can't necessarily, not everybody is going to be fortunate enough to make it to Indy or Dortmund. They can at least still say, hey, it was on the schedule. These are events that we let you guys participate in. That way, nobody can complain at the end of the year and say, well, this isn't how we got to this point to begin with.
If they want Infinity to be a real well, I say a real format, but if they want Infinity to be strong and continue on, they need to do something at Worlds in the Infinity format. Um, that needs to happen. But yeah, Ink, just like Dylan said, is happening today. It's 6, 7 a.m.
Well,
California time. So
Citrus Clash is
yeah,
taking
Citrus.
place today.
I can't keep my head wrapped together with some of these events. Um, but there's really nothing, and I kind of went back and forth about this topic. There's really nothing that we can really add to the overall conversation that really hasn't been said online already because we've had I think we had 6 events last weekend. We have a few this weekend. But there's a lot of attention right now in the Infinity format on a particular ink combination, and that being Chernadog, because it is back. Just to kind of give you all an idea of where this Infinity format is going, I think Kurt Spice's list that won the Ink last weekend is a very good example of this. So this is a perfect melting pot of cards from all sorts of sets. You got Daisy Duck, you got Nala, you got Rapunzel from set one, you got the Duel Link Tramp, you got Chernabog, Piglet, my man Piglet coming in clutch. You got Nani from, I forget, it's either Whispers or Winter Spell. And then you also got the Horseman Strikes and also the new Dale here as well. So um, it's a good combination of everything together. And this deck, despite it not being the most popular deck in the room, it is converting very well. So it's the way I've described Infinity is like a pendulum. I feel like what's going to happen is it's going to swing back and forth. You're going to have a deck convert really well into top eight. People are going to try to combat it. It's going to swing back in another direction, and then it's going to continue to go back and forth and back and forth. So I think that's a good discussion point. I do think this is a really good example of a deck that melts all the best things together for a certain strategy and then executes on it because it is a very efficient and powerful deck.
Yeah, it's different, and I think the two things that catches my eye and kind of blows my mind slightly is the amount of characters in comparison to your actions and everything else, right? You don't see like Ohana being ran, but the two big ones that I don't see are Chromacon and Under the Sea, which we've become so accustomed to seeing in these Amber Emerald decks. But just looking at it, you don't really need them because your characters are so strong with their abilities here that you have everything that you need with the abilities alone. You have Ursula, who her this 2-drop Ursula, right? She acts almost as she's an action herself, right? You play her, and then you can force an opponent to discard a action or something, and then card draw. We finally get to play this Rapunzel Gifted Healer again, right? Which we haven't seen in a long
In a
time.
year.
And a
Yeah.
lot of these cards here, like even the little 1-drop Daisy has 4 willpower, the Nala has 4 willpower, Rapunzel can heal up to 3, I do believe. And then that's card draw built into the card itself. You have recursion happening with this lady that allows cards to come back from. Is that even the right lady? Do we
No,
even
that's the
have the
one drop.
Floodborn
It's
lady?
the Lilo comes back.
That's crazy. Yeah, but we don't have the Floodborn lady in this deck either. That when she quests, she can bring a 2-drop back. That's insane. It blows my mind so much. You're going as wide as you can. You're getting cards out early, and then the big dog in the room that everybody's talking about is Tramp. And in my mind, looking at it, I've always looked at Tramp as like, okay, Tramp is a problem because you only need Tramp and one other card on the field, and that's it. And you can essentially sing Under the Sea as they sing together. It effectively, for the most part, is a board wipe onto your opponent without having to spend any ink, without removing any of your characters. It's like even Be Prepared, right? Be Prepared was a board wipe, but it took your characters out as well. And even though you could sing it, you still needed a 7 cost character to sing that song. It wasn't a sing together. So the fact that we have a sing together that's acting as a board wipe is insane. But it's not in this deck. So Tramp is just churning through and he's looking for answers. I guess you're Nani here, right? Nani is now going to be your card draw essentially. Rapunzel is going to be card draw. Ursula is going to force your opponent to discard things, and then you're just churning cards into your discard in order to make my boy here, to make Chernadog. You're playing him for free.
It's very efficient, and again, like it kind of goes back. Like I don't think Tramp and to some people the 1-cost lady is currently Public Enemies number 1 and 2 right now. I don't think there's anything new that we can add to the conversation that's not already been said. I I think we go back and forth on the cards, but I don't think we're in a position to really make a call either way. It's going to require innovation, and it kind of goes back to a little bit of Infinity Prep. Is the power level of these cards are just so high to begin with. The Infinity format is very high, and we are getting the most optimized versions of each deck out. And um, yeah, Dylan, why don't we? Never mind. I was going to look for headphones. My bad. But it's a fascinating format, and again, we just wanted to show Kurt's list on here because it is very optimized.
So correct me if I'm wrong. Dates of Indy DLC because we're getting ready to run into that. What is the date for the Indianapolis DLC?
June 19th. So we are under a month from Indy, and we are sooner and closer to that to Dortmund.
Okay, so we won't necessarily have Attack of the Vine won't be released yet before Indy.
No,
Yet there
this is
is
the
a
format that we are working with is Wilds Unknown Infinity. Yep.
gotcha, and then there's other Infinity format or Infinity level themed events that are happening after the release of Attack of the Vine. at some point. It's such a weird stage right now, right? Because we have so many different events, some before Attack of the Vine, some after, and that card pool of these decks as this meta per se, whenever it comes to these infinity decks and the way that they're shaping out, it's going to completely change too, right? The same way that we've talked about how overall the meta is going to change as soon as Attack of the Vine comes out because of rotation. There could be so many cards that turn around now and come out that could counter Tramp and Dell, which love to see Dell in this deck too. But we'll see.
We'll see. It's a very, I don't want to say it's a very confusing format. It is a very wild. It's a very wild format. um, so yeah, DLC Indy's coming up. I will be there. I will have stickers. Thanks, John. But it's it is really interesting. So obviously, one is the reason why I go to these things. The reason why we go to these things is we love the community and we really like being able to document these things for people who may not have the opportunity to go there, whether it be for health or financial or just time considerations. You know, we like to document and make sure that everyone can kind of live vicariously through us. And I think we
I
mentioned
live vicariously through you for sure because I still have yet to get to attend any of these DLC events because I am in that boat with other Illumineers where I getting off work, finding babysitters if you're not bringing your kids with you, which they have done a tremendous job in proving it and making these events more family oriented, not just the competitive side of things, but turning it into a entire Disney/Disney Lorcana convention per se, with cosplaying and the collection quest and everything else. But yeah, I for
yeah.
sure I live vicariously through you and all the other amazing content creators who share information and document these events.
Yeah, and I think we said this a while ago, but you know, we are spoiled by the locations of these DLCs because we were within driving distance of two of three of them, and one was just a very short flight away. So, obviously, in season three next year, well, we assume season three next year, we do hope that there is more events widespread, like more DLCs throughout the continent, really. I think the CCQs have been the challenge qualifiers have been a great way to kind of bridge that gap. That was something that we definitely needed because imagine if we didn't have the CCQs, that would have been rough. So I want to give
Yeah, I think
kudos.
that's to Coop and the team, right? For sure. Yeah, I was getting ready to say the exact same thing because if you reflect back and we're talking about all these improvements that they have had, these pre-release kits we talked about, huge improvement from where we were to where we are now. These CCQs, if you look back at the beginning of the year when they announced season 2 of Disney Lorcana and they said, "Hey, we are only going to have 3 in all of North America, but
Pitchforks.
United States." Right, in the States. We're only gonna have 3 in Europe, and then they're spread out because Disney Lorcana is worldwide now. There were a lot of complaints about this is not enough. There is a demand for this game. People want to play, they want to be a part of these experiences. So the fact that we have these CCQs is absolutely fantastic because now we've went from I've already lost track of how many there were or how many there are because they're still taking place. And there's so many different ways for people to get prizing because Ravensburger is doing an amazing job of sending prize support over to the CCQs. People have more opportunities to qualify for the North America Championship, the European Championship, and everything else because of the CCQs. And then just overall, these areas that didn't think they were going to be able to participate in events like this, now they have access to them.
Yeah, it's it was needed. But you know, we can sit there and have a whole episode about DLCs and, and stuff like that. But um, you know, I will say this back in Milwaukee, whenever I phoned in to that episode, I did say that the Infinity format was not fun in Milwaukee. I had an awful time. It was not fun. It was Sapphire Steel everywhere. It was just not a very fun format. Now that Hiram has been banned, I think that was inevitable. I think the writing was on the wall. On the wall. It was going to happen. Um, It opened things up quite a bit. Things are a little bit more open now than what they were. And once that happened, I got a little bit more excited. I was like, okay, like I feel confident in the format. Now, I think that's something kind of goes back to the health of Infinity is, they need to continue to make as needed and as they feel is needed, make these gameplay updates to keep that format healthy. Because if they did not ban Hiram, I was not going to Indy. There's just no way. It was going to be just a mirror match party everywhere. And I already had that with Blurple and in Milwaukee during Core Construct. I was like, the mirror is the mirror, but it is what it is. But going back to prep a little bit, it's a lot different this time around just because it is Infinity and you are very limited on your options unless you have a store that has like an Infinity Night. And I know a lot of places don't really have that demand yet, and they're not really doing Infinity Nights like weekly. So there's a lot of players have had to result to other testing formats, whether it be proxies at home with cards that they don't have yet to be acquired, whether it be one of the alternate methods I think we'll say to play the game. I think is a good way to put it. There's a lot more ways to test, and a lot of people are prioritizing those methods because they are a little bit more accessible because you don't want to sleeve up a whole deck and be like, never mind, screw this, I'm not doing this, and then go back to the drawing board. But I am not touching Core Constructed after outside of weekly league on Saturdays, days like today. I am not touching Core Constructed. um, and it kind of goes back to what we mentioned at the beginning of the segment was if you are going to either a local competitive or premier level event, I beg you to at least practice to some degree. This is not a format that you can roll up to and be prepared for because it is changed in a week, and it's probably going to change about 4 more times between now and Dortmund and Indy. Like it is such a volatile format, but it's a very fun format because you're wide open. The only card you cannot use is Hiram, at least at this point. But there's a lot of resources going into it. There's other content creators that are also being very supportive of each other who are playing in the main event, including myself. And we have a really good support system right now, just helping people out. There's a pretty good group of local players that are going. So everyone right now is just making sure that people have that pool to bounce ideas off of, play test, and also if we need cards, then there's pools of players making sure that people have what they need before they go to these events. But one of the big things I'm doing differently though is I am not like we got DLCs grown from a Saturday Sunday to a Friday Saturday Sunday with side events on Friday. I ain't doing nothing on Friday. That was the biggest mistake I made on Friday. I was exhausted for the main event, and I will not be doing any major side event on Friday. I will still be
You
there.
talking about like at Richmond?
Yeah, Richmond. Yeah,
Okay.
playing in that major side event. I think it was 7 rounds pregame thing or whatever. Playing 7 rounds, playing basically a main event the day before the main event was not wise. Um, that sucked the life out of me, and I was exhausted going to the main event on Saturday. And that was probably not only was that probably the biggest mistake I made that weekend, but also it was January and everyone had the sniffles. So
Mhm.
I feel like I came back with the crud. Um, yeah, it's just anytime you have a gathering of that many people, there's bound to be a super spreader event of something. So not only was I physically not well in Richmond, not to the point where I was crazy, but not only was just everyone generally unwell in Richmond physically, but also burning that much gas the day before was not wise. It is a marathon thing, and I don't know how Fungus did it. Fungus, the guy who won Richmond, he played in that 7 round main event the day before. I'm like, brother, you got a lot more stamina than I do.
So I think I mean, dude, I could sit here and I can listen to you talk of your preparations and what it is that you are doing for to face Infinity. I still, at this point, I don't even know what you're even considering playing because I know what you typically like to play, and I think that you may be going a completely different direction. I mean, we'll talk about that later today at League and stuff. But I guess my big thing here is as much as we can talk about you, these events are completely different depending on the person and the Illuminator. You're each going to have a different experience when you're there. There might be people that roll up and aren't even there for the main event themselves. They're there for the side events because
Yep.
there will be side events that aren't just Infinity focused, right? That there's still other things that are going on and taking place. But these events are massive. There are lots of people, and this will be the fourth DLC that you've attended. It's pretty big numbers. So I think it's safe to say that you are at least slightly qualified to answer this question. But I guess the big one is if you were to give advice to other Illuminaires who might be showing up to a DLC for the first time, what advice can you give them to help prevent them from becoming overwhelmed by everything? The amount of people there, the different side events that are taking place, just all of it, the general buzz, I guess.
Yeah. No, and you're right, and we'll talk about this in due time. But yeah, I am tackling Infinity completely different than what I would normally play. Like I'm playing with colors I've never played before, like just straight up wacky combinations. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people who go to these DLCs as an attendee and never touch the main event. There's content creators who do it. There's families who do it. Um, the growth of the DLCs has been great because they have continued to add more offerings. And probably the biggest knock I hear is that things we got in Richmond and probably in Indy, why didn't we have that at the beginning of the season in Milwaukee? So it would be nice if we had more consistency of offerings because I think this is the only DLC that has well, besides championships, that has the premier or premium and VIP. So it's not been consistent. But I think the biggest thing, whether you're coming as an attendee, which is a completely different experience, or if you're coming on the main event, you've never done this before. I think making sure that you understand the environment that you're walking into is probably the biggest thing, because this is the highest level of play at Lorcana, whether it be in a side event, whether it be in the main event. Um, Everyone is friendly, and it's a good vibe all around. But I think it's important to make sure that you manage expectations properly. I think it's good to have goals. It's very good to have goals, whether you're playing in side events or you're just coming to play Pack Rush the whole weekend or you're competing in the main event. But managing expectations and also and giving yourself realistic goals. Like back in Milwaukee, my goal was 3 wins. Mission accomplished. Sure. Like I think everyone wants to show up to a DLC and do the best they can, no matter what that looks like. But then also I think it's important to make sure that you don't wear yourself out. Because if you are physically exhausted, you're not gonna have as much fun. So take breaks. My biggest thing at a DLC is I don't eat because it's so we don't get lunch breaks, and rightfully so because it would just be insane to try to facilitate that. It is a marathon, so coming prepared, managing your expectations, having realistic goals, and just making sure that you are well rested is probably the biggest thing. And also, don't be afraid to say hi to people. Like, don't be afraid to go. Like, a lot of the content creators, they'll find a table and they'll just have unofficial cues for meet and greets and stuff like that. Your favorite creators, you're just walking in the hallway. Like, don't be afraid to say hello to people because half to 75% of the fun is the people. Like that's what makes these DLCs awesome, and that's why I leave with such a high. But yeah, it is very overwhelming. I remember Atlanta. Obviously, I had no desire to do what that granted that was the 2 game system, so I drew 5 games, lost 3 and won 1. Like, yeah, like it just is what it is. But I remember walking in and just being overstimulated. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, this is a lot of chatter. judge calls left or lore guides, whatever people use the term alternatively. But yeah, I think just managing that is the biggest thing, and I think it's in Indy and Dortmund's going to be fun. It's truly the Wild West, but it's going to be fun. So check out our Instagram, our stories. I'll be posting the entire weekend. I'm only a 4-hour drive away, so it's going to be pretty fun. But and it kind of goes back. It's kind of a similar vibe to Gen Con in terms of like just the amount of stimulation happening, just stuff happening everywhere.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's
for
a
sure.
lot. That's my biggest thing.
But and then one thing that people will need to know before they go is about this new rules update, right?
Yep. This came out last week, not the previous Lorecast, but two Lorecasts ago, we'll say. There is a competitive and premier rules update, and it's one that I really would encourage everyone to practice. So
Yeah, I even got to get better at that.
yeah, and I'll say why that is for a second. But there is a update in the tournament rules that whenever you are inking from your hand for a turn, like you ink a Tipo, for example, from your hand for a turn, the moment that that card hits your inkwell, that card has to remain face up. And the reason for that is that acts as a visual indicator that you have inked from your hand for turn. Because I think previously in the beginning, people were inking, immediately turning it face down, and then became the question of, did I ink for turn? And then you're sitting there going, because technically, again, casual, completely different, weekly play, completely different, because technically the inkwell is a private space. Once cards are face down in the inkwell, neither player can look at them. You cannot look at your own inkwell unless there's something that allows you to do so. Like Mufasa allows you still face down, but allows you to bring cards back from your inkwell. So it eliminates that confusion of did I ink for turn? And granted, we know that not every single one of our viewers watches these events like we do, but at a premier level event, I forget if it was a CCQ or a DLC, but there was a top 8 match where a player inked twice from hand for turn and it went unnoticed. So that obviously everyone on the stream caught it, but a lot of that is because we have this flip down thing. So this is a strong rule in set championships and above. However, this is something that I would probably encourage everyone to do. I know it's something that I've done because technically you've always been allowed to do it. It's just in competitive and premier level, you're required to do it now. And not to go down a story time, but in Atlanta, granted, I was just playing the game. Like it is what it is. Like I was just there for the vibes. I was playing a Steel Song player, and there was a moment of confusion where my opponent asked me, "Did I ink for turn?" And I was like, "I hate to do this, but I was like, we need a judge to make sure that we're good here." So immediately I called a judge. Judge came over. Judge helped us walk it back. Judge, I forget the exact play guidelines because Atlanta was a lot different than what we have nowadays, but somehow it was resolved that they had already inked for turn. They did not they did not ink another card, but the moment that question came up, at that point, and for anyone listening, you need a judge at that point. They are there to help you walk through these things. It's been so long ago, I don't remember how we came to that conclusion, but that did result, I believe, in a just caution for the players. So, good thing to keep in
My
mind.
big question is for specific cards, right? Like the rules cards. So people know. Let's say Tipo, for instance. Tipo, again, I'm not a Sapphire player, but there's tons of Sapphire cards that allow you to do things where you can ink a second card for turn. So for the ones that do allow you to ink a second card for turn, technically, a lot of times that card does not have to be inkable. It could be just a card from hand. It doesn't necessarily. It's not sell, right? So sell, if you ink a second card from sell, it does have to be inkable. Whereas
Yep.
Tipo, it can be any card that you throw into your inkwell.
It could be uninkable. So for cards like that, you don't have to have it face up. And you have to think about things like one jump ahead, for example. One jump ahead, you get to ramp, but the trade-off for you as the player playing it is you don't know what that card is. So this primarily applies to inking the turn step that you get to ink from your hand for turn, not
Okay.
necessarily card abilities. Now, sale people will still do it because again, you're inking from hand, but
Because you
things
have
like
to prove that it is an inkable card.
correct. But with
Yeah.
one jump and TPO, no, those cards effects supersede like they can be face down. So
Gotcha. Yeah, because that's a whole other thing with this game is the card counting. You don't always know what your opponent's running, but a lot of times with these top level premier, oh, I don't know. We've seen decks show up on streams, right? And then like even DKP was like, man, this wasn't supposed to be open deck list, but everybody knows what I'm running because they've showed
round one
my
feature
deck on
match.
stream, right? Whereas typically you would have to make it to top cut before you actually become open deck list and you can see what your opponent's running or something like that.
Believe so, something like that. But I tell you what, who's fantastic at those percentages? Alan, our friend Alan. That man is a mathematician. Like we have practiced a little bit on voice and Discord. He's like, okay, you got a X% chance that you have this card in hand. I'm like, how did you know that? Like it just that's a whole other
Yep.
level. But yeah, it's the
I
trade.
think my wife is secretly the same way. She like card counts the heck out of
Oh, she's
everybody's
great at
decks.
it.
So if you turn around and you're showing even your like the TPO cards, I think it's important that we play those still, that those are face down and not face up with cards like that, because then that brings in this secondary element of the card counting, right? And you kind of still want it to be a surprise or your opponent not to know what all is there at all times.
Yep. But
I don't
that's
know.
that's it'll be fun. But we are scheming some Infinity Fun at the local level.
We sure are. So, again, I'm not necessarily fortunate enough to be able to attend all of these DLCs, and there's tons of Illuminaires out there, just like me, that may not have the opportunity to go. So, what we have decided to do is we are going to host our own Infinity Weekend, per se. Ravensburger in the past had their first Infinity Weekend where we got the whole New World promo. And this could be a thing that we see later down the line. They said that it was going to be the first Infinity Weekend, meaning that there could be more in the future. But we're not going to wait for them because we're going to throw our own. And this is our Infinity and Beyond weekend that we're going to host at our local game store, the Boardroom in South Charleston, West Virginia. And this is just absolutely fantastic because it will overlap with that DLC where the Infinity format will be taking place. And it will also overlap with the release of Toy Story 5, which I think comes out on June 19th. So
Something like
that's
that.
Friday, I think. I'm pretty sure. So that Friday, whenever that kicks off the DLC Indianapolis, Toy Story 5 will also be releasing. So the stars just they aligned perfectly for us to be able to have this to where we can celebrate both that Infinity DLC and the release of Toy Story 5. Maybe we can do a watch along and have the stream up in the background as we play at our local league. This is just going to be something fun for everybody and all the Illuminators back home to be able to participate and partake in and have some pizza and just play with all of their favorite cards while celebrating everything else that's going on and cheering you and all of our other locals that are there on along the way.
I'm jealous because this is something I've always wanted at, and again, kudos to our home game shop, the Boardroom, because they let us just do things like this, and they're so supportive, and they don't have to do it because it's their business. But the fact that like I've always wanted like a DLC watch party, but I'm gonna be at the DLC, so I'm jealous. But it's fun, and I think this goes back that like you know at least here in West Virginia, Infinity again, like we mentioned, is not a very frequent format. But if this format can continue to be healthy, where we're able to sprinkle it throughout the year, I like that.
Yeah, it'll be fun. We definitely want some more theme nights and stuff like that over the next year, whether it be Infinity or 2v2 stuff or just the franchise, the movie nights. We really enjoyed doing that. That was fun for everybody. But I mean, we have tons of other fun happening this summer as well, because not only will we have this Infinity and Beyond weekend, Indie DLC, we will also once again be heading back to Indy a month after that for Gen Con. And I know we've already announced it that we're going to be there, but we've been super, super busy behind the scenes prepping for Gen Con because they just now released the event catalog. And we've had to scramble to get all of our event tickets and everything else for this super special event. It's going to be super fun. So, just looking ahead at it, the one event that stands out the most to me outside of other stuff, and we'll talk about the other Lorcana events and stuff that they have. But last year when we went, they had a second anniversary panel, is the way that it was described. It was in a room. It hosted about 200 people, maybe slightly more than 200, maybe 220, somewhere in there. But there were 200 some tickets. Everybody was there, and it was like a live lorecast per se. It almost turned into, this was like the first of the special lorecast that we now see that releases every set. This is different. This is being advertised as a third year celebration because, for those that don't know, Disney Lorcana originally started almost 3 years ago at Gen Con. That's whenever it officially released per se to the public. Before the first chapter even came out to local game stores and stuff, you could get your hands on Disney Lorcana for the first time at Gen Con, because Gen Con is the largest tabletop and gaming convention in the United States, because I'm sure there are other ones bigger within Europe and stuff, maybe even in all of North America. So
It's
there's
huge.
always tons of games being revealed and released for the first time. It's huge. 70,000 people last year. Thanks, 70,000 plus
70,000,
people.
23,000 events. I think this is a new record too. I'm in a fans of Gen Con Facebook post, which is a great
Yeah.
resource. I just the sheer volume of events blows my mind every year.
Yeah, it's insane. Over 4 days, and Ravensburger. Thankfully, we didn't have to wait this year because last year they waited a really long time before they put their events on. So kudos to whoever's in charge behind the scenes for that, for having them ready for us to wish list and schedule and get our sheets document pulled up to where we can schedule everything that we needed. But yeah, this year we have a third year anniversary celebration. And it's not being advertised as a panel. It is being advertised as a cooperative gameplay demo of the new Illumineer's Quest: A Great Honey Rescue. I actually have a image of the event itself pulled up on here. It says that the maximum audience is 210 people. Looking at it this morning, I think that there were like 12 tickets still available or something like that. By the time that this podcast actually goes live, it may be sold out. But this seems to be about the same amount of people that we had in the room with us last year during that panel. But this is something different because if we reread it, the long description here says the Disney Lorcana TCG team at Ravensburger demonstrates its latest cooperative standalone product called Illumineer's Quest: The Great Honey Rescue. Join the players as they cast glimmers of Disney's Winnie the Pooh characters reimagined as a party of adventurers. Each individual must have their own ticket, blah, 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 blah. There are some conversations amongst our team and amongst others whenever it comes to this event, because this seems like it's just going to be a demo. And I know that's not exciting to you as much, Preston, as what it is me. And that we're hoping for more. But I truly think that this is going to be a demo of a game. And we'll find out in just a month or so. But I think that what's going to happen is we're all going to get in here. There will be maybe Greg Tito along with some of the folks from Ravensburger. They'll host this event. They'll introduce the product, go over it a little bit better as to what it is. And then they will be on stage and we will watch a live presentation or whatever, or a live gameplay of them playing through and demonstrating what this game is.
So I've just pulled up so every time you register for an event at Gen Con, you get a message, like a boilerplate message from the TO. And the message from the event organizer is, "Thank you for registering. Da, 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 da. We're excited to share our brand new game and announcements." So I think that should probably have been mentioned inside the event description, because they don't mention anything about, at least I don't think. I don't
And
think they mention.
announcements.
Yeah, they don't mention anything about announcements. They only mention the demo of Great Honey Rescue. So once I saw that confirmation come in, I was like, okay, like we're gonna get more than, at least by the looks of this message, we're gonna be getting more. I don't know how much, but we're gonna be getting more than just a demo, it seems.
So we hope, right? I mean, we still don't know what that and announcements could be. They and announcements could just be the release date of the product itself, of that Illuminator's Quest: The Great Honey Rescue. Because if you go to Disney Lorcana's website right now, I believe that it just says that that product is releasing in Q4. In the most recent Lorecast that just took place, I think Tito said that it was actually going to be releasing in October of this year for everybody, but we do not have a official release date of when in October. I'm like you. I'm hopeful that there will be more. But here's the thing. If we reflect this year Gen Con into last year Gen Con, we're coming in at a different time, per se, in the world of Lorcana. Last year when we attended, it was right before Fabled released. We were right in the middle. It kicked off the reveal season for Fabled, essentially, right before that first rotation. So we got to sit there and partake in what was their special lorecast that showed off Fabled. It showed off the Iconics for the first time. It showed off sets down the line, the Toy Story and Wilds Unknown and Winterspell, getting to learn more about those. We're not going to have that this year. We will not be in the middle of reveal season at all. Attack of the Vine will have just released, and at some point within the next couple of weeks, we will probably get another special lorecast specifically for Attack of the Vine, and all of that will happen prior to Gen Con. Gen Con, their main focus is going to be this CCQ, which we didn't get tickets for this CCQ. It is already sold out. I know you were debating, going back and forth, whether you would or not, but even then, I think that they were sold out anyways.
It took a minute, but only 128 people, which makes sense because otherwise you would have a full day event, and that's just not feasible for a an event like this.
So I know that this I don't even want to say panel, but this demonstration isn't as exciting for some people as what it is for others, because like we're bringing a local with us. Our friend Matt is coming with us, and I think out of our group that got tickets and stuff for this event, he was the only one that was like, I'm good. I'm good. I'll get the Illuminator's Quest when it comes out, but like as for a demonstration, there's other things that I can go do." He's like, "I can go actually play Lorcana instead, right?" But this is super exciting. And one thing that I will like to say is Gen Con is a special event where magic happens. And a lot of times with these new board games, per se, or even TCGs and stuff like that, you have the opportunity to get your hands on products or special promos or other things before they actually release. This was also hinted at in that special lorecast because it was JVZ, Greg Tito, Rochelle. They were sitting there talking about it. That's when Tito said that it was coming out in October. JDZ asked if you were going to be able to get it at Gen Con, and it was a hard maybe. You might be able to. And again, this is probably me just getting my hopes up. But I could see a world in which they will have a select number of this product available for purchase, or yeah, probably for purchase. I don't want to say it's going to be given away, but probably for purchase. Maybe even to the Illuminators who participate in this event. I don't know. But if you even go back to that first reveal at Gen Con almost 3 years ago, you can still find those special promos of the D, not D23. Maybe it was D23. Was it D23 or the Gen Con promos? Are there Gen Con promos? John's shaking his head yes, there is. And those go for a lot too.
So
I don't know how you feel about that.
I think there's a possibility that it might be there. I don't think it's going to be included with the event because that would be really weird if they don't put that on there. So I could see that getting some backlash, but everything's off on the table at Gen Con.
Literally everything is on the table, and we cannot wait to attend. There are tons of events that we will be participating in. There is Lorcana left and right. We have a image here of partial of the Lorcana themed events that are going to be there, because you can't even fit them all into one screen or into one image. There are so many
52,
over
I think.
4 days. We have, just looking at it here, we have a 3-set sealed, triple deck constructed. You have ink sprints. We have multiple variations of pack rust, core constructed, booster
Fabled and
draft for
first
Attack
chapter
of the Vine.
sealed.
There you go. First chapter sealed. Your favorite format, what is it? Where you get the starter deck constructed? Where
I
your
don't know about
random.
favorite, but no, I
Oh, that
started
was
at
sarcasm.
chaos. Yeah. Listen, I not all starter decks are made equal. And I wonder how they're going to do that, because if they start doing these 2-player decks and phasing out single player, like a lot of these events, if I'm being honest, is them moving old product. And what better place to do it? Because you got Shimmering Skies sealed. I'm like, no. Like,
Okay, if you say
okay.
so.
Okay.
That just got
Um,
rotated out because Attack of the Vine just released.
Right. But I'm not doing as many Lorcana. I'm doing one Lorcana event a day. Um, I feel I'm a lot more confident player, a lot more comfortable in those competitive environments. So obviously the playmat's still a goal. But um, one thing though is that bonus, the last chance sealed or whatever. I got in. I know we are looking for Dylan to squeak in there, so we are
Did you?
keeping an
You
eye
got
out.
into that?
Yeah, I got into that.
Did you go back and get a ticket afterwards, or were you able to get in
That
at
was in
like
that was in
day
the wish
of?
list.
Gotcha. I had it in the wish list, but it was sold out by the time that I got through the queue. So
So,
hopefully,
and real quick
maybe.
on that, I don't. I have an issue with that. This is a whole other post Gen Con thing. I have an issue with the wish list thing. I don't know how reliable that is, because you have people who click the button at the exact same time, and I guess light and fiber and internet transmissions and whatever. But some people got 2,000 in line to process. Some people got 14,000 at the exact same time. So I don't know. But if you, including Dylan, if you are going to Gen Con and you did not get what you're looking for, just refresh the page, keep an eye out. And people will solidify their agendas, and things will pop up, because that's how I got into it last time, was the night
Yep.
before.
Still sold out currently this morning.
Yep. Well, we're doing other things too.
We will
I'm
see.
finally doing
We
Riftbound.
are doing other things. Yeah, I mean, I know you're excited about Riftbound. You have been talking Riftbound left and right. I think that you have a secret fantasy of like I wanting to play Riftbound hard.
I just
But
like the
what's
way the game
cool,
goes. Yeah.
this will be exciting because even last year going to Gen Con, I don't think there was a single event outside of that second anniversary panel that the three of us did together. So this we are actually not just going to be doing Lorcana. Lorcana is fantastic. That's the bread and butter. That is why we're all here. But we are fortunate enough and thankful that we received media passes from Gen Con. So one of the things that we want to do is take our part and do our due diligence to cover as much as we can about this entire event, not just the Lorcana aspect of it. So we want to hit up all kinds of other different tabletop and TCG experiences. This Riftbound Learn to Play is one that I think that we're excited for on different levels, but mostly because the three of us will be doing this together. Some other cool things. There is a Cyberpunk TCG game. I don't know if you've ever played Cyberpunk, Preston. It seems up your alley with like the technology and everything, but they have a brand new TCG that is being released for the first time or shown off for the first time at Gen Con. And then this is a game me and John played last year, but he's going to bring his wife along this year and we're going to play it again. But this is a board game called Yanari the Witch's Market. I've actually kickstarted it. We played it last year. It came to Kickstarter, and now we're going to play it again. before I even get my hands on it. This game is just so fun to play. But it's called Yennari the Witch Market, and it is by the team of I think it's 1766. Who makes it? It's Obojima, which is just this fantastic world that they've created. And you know me with even like over to Lorcana, the whole world building aspect of it, of give us more products from your entire world and story, just to expand it even more. And we'll be covering so much more, so many other board games and TCGs and stuff that we'll be checking out, along with I think we'll definitely spend some time over towards the CCQ as it's taking place. We'll check in with it, even if we're not participating, because we'll have access to be able to like see some of these top players performing in it and stuff. Maybe we could even try to gather around as like Top Cut happens or something and check it out. But we're super excited to cover all of this, all of Gen Con, to share this experience for people who don't necessarily know what Gen Con is, who might be on the fence whether they should come and check it out or not, and what it means to be an Illumineer and someone who likes Lorcana. What is the experience like overall for us at an event like this? And I think it's finally time. We've been talking about this behind the scenes for a while. Over on our website, if you go to the inktable.com, we have different sections broken down. We have the sections that recap our podcast episodes like this, but we also have a separate section there called More Fun at the Table, where we have been fortunate enough to cover media releases or whatever for different board games and tabletop games and that we enjoy. And I know Preston is like he's like Lorcana till I die, right? Like that is
I'm
my
just not a
bread
big
and
board
butter.
game person. Like I
Right,
just
but your
don't have
wife
time
is.
for other things.
Right. But I think it's still cool to cover other things that bring people to the table. Have people gather around their metaphorical tables and just events and games that bring people together. And there's so many games out there that are doing that we have the opportunity to cover and be a part of and participate in, whether it be at Gen Con or throughout the year through these media relations and stuff that pop up. So not as frequently, but every now and then you may see a video pop up on the channel of us playing or showing off or talking about some of these other experiences outside of Lorcana that we're participating in. And I think that Gen Con season is a great time to kind of start that up. We'll have our Gen Con playlist. That way people can always refer back to it. But we'll also have the more fun at the table per se playlist that we can add stuff like that to. That's not directly Lorcana related, but is still people gathering around the table and us having fun in some way, shape, or form.
I think one
So,
final thing with Gen Con, though, is one thing that was kind of absent was Collection Quest, because last year they
yeah,
were actual like scheduled things, and not to make a whole story of it, but there's no scheduled Collection Quest where they kind of like funnel you into a room like last year.
yeah. Out of those
It's
52 events that you talked about there, Election Quest is not part of it at all this year.
No, and I think the reason why that is I think they're going to do a passive collection quest, because they make mention inside the CCQ description that if you play in the CCQ, you get a free entry into collection quest. And if you go look on our Instagram stories for Richmond, there was a collection quest where you just paid it and then you got your packs. And then there's just tables where you traded. It was nothing scheduled. And it seems like Collection Quest is still going to be there. It's just not going to be a scheduled event like in an isolated environment, if that makes sense. It's just something that's going to be passively going on. We don't know if this is going to be like you have to complete certain events like other DLCs like they had the EU. Probably going to be similar to what
That
we saw at California Adventure and Epcot.
Yeah, that's my issue with it. Is I really hope that if they do this, that it is like we saw in Richmond and we saw at California Adventure and the Epcot Festival of the Arts, which we also have content that you can check out from that as well. But it's like you get a little booklet. It's got 4 cards in it, and then you have to open a pack and trade with other Illumineers and try to get those 4 cards to complete your set. Whereas the European one, you had to actually participate in different events. So it was like, go play Pack Rush. Go do this. Go do that. That's going to be harder to do in this because tickets are already on sale. Maybe you're trying to encourage people to go purchase tickets and play in these different Lorcana themed events, but that's not necessarily going to be an option for everybody. So I'm curious as to how they'll go about it, and I really hope that it is just a passive. See, dude, you know how awesome it's going to be. This is what I had at Epcot at the Festival of Arts, and it's yes, you had it at Richmond, but Richmond was strictly Lorcana. That was a Lorcana event. Yes, I was in Disney at Festival of Arts, but not everybody was there for Lorcana related stuff like you at Richmond. Gen Con's going to be the same way. People are going to be there for everything. So if we have this entire collection quest that's happening passively, out of 72,000 people walking around or whatever, seeing people with their little collection books and just randomly throughout the entire venue just trying to trade cards and complete their quest and teach other people what Lorcana is, it's going to be such a great time overall and such a good thing for the game itself and the community.
The unfortunate thing, though, is if they have tables around the booth, like what they had at Richmond, we're not going to see a lot of that because you're just going to see stacks of bulk and people just rifling through trying to complete their quest. So it
That's
happened at
very true.
Richmond.
Not everybody will do that, but that'll happen.
Defeats the purpose, right? But that's what happened in Richmond. Is it just turned into? I guess that's the benefit of having a scheduled thing. Is you don't get the opportunity to just go through bulk and complete your quest without ever talking to somebody. So that's the downside of
No,
not
but then you end up like John last year, where he had the same quest to complete as Dan from the Forbidden Mountain, and Dan completed his, and then he was, and then just passed everything that John needed over so he could complete his too. Same instance, just different. Yeah,
just
tomato,
bulk.
tomato. But the best part and the best thing about Gen Con that we know so far, Lorcana related, which was just announced, is that we will now be getting a new convention promo. They have not stated that it will be at Gen Con, but they have shown off this new convention promo, which is a Woody card from the upcoming Attack of the Vine. Great card, by the way. And I know you're excited about this because I don't even know if you've talked about it on here, like within the podcast. I know you have in the Discord and locally and stuff, but you, as a major fan of Toy Story, are starting a binder where you want one copy of like all the different Toy Story cards, their promo versions, their foil versions, the Enchanted, the Iconics, this, that, the other. So this is going to be an excellent addition to your collection. But this is very similar to the Goofy Emerald Champion that we got last year. That was
We're
was it a
assuming.
Whispers? No. Rochelle has stated.
Oh,
Rochelle
okay. I
has
missed that.
stated that this is similar to that Goofy Emerald Champion. Goofy Emerald Champion was a promo card for a future set that was not out yet whenever that convention promo was released. And she has stated in that lorecast that anywhere that you saw or were able to get that Emerald Champion last year, you should be able to get this Woody helping a friend promo here this year. And it's my only question that I got to try to figure out here is how do you obtain it? Because yeah, maybe you participate in a passive collection quest, and this is the reward at the end, is this promo. But I believe that the Goofy Emerald Champion last year at Gen Con was with purchase, so you had to purchase something at their booth, and then they gave you the Emerald Champion with that.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Time will tell, and I'm sure within the next upcoming weeks, more information about Gen Con specifically will be rolling out from the Ravensburger team, and we'll have even more insight.
But briefly, because these books that are coming out have kind of been fragmented on information. It's like we release something and then we get new information like 2 days later.
Oh,
Recap
dude.
us briefly what's the deal with these books?
So, yeah, I think it was the last podcast episode we talked about them a little bit, and then immediately afterwards, there was a GameSpot article that came out that actually showed off the cover of these books, not just the descriptions of them, which we had before. And Ravensburger and Disney, they've partially talked about these products a little bit, but they really haven't shown them off too much. We have an image here. I think the most important thing about it is this book in particular. Yes, we will be getting that next addition to the official collector's guides as well, but this product here, the Quest of Wonders and Illuminator's lore book, we now have a release date for, per se, that says September 1st, 2026 is when this should release. Again, this is a new narrative product that is coming from Disney Lorcana and their narrative team that will include a limited edition promo, most likely that narrative promo that we've yet to see that we know does exist. But looking at the cover here, we can slightly talk about this a little more. We now see that there is a Illuminator on the front, right on the cover, right dead center. This is most likely his lore book. This is a Illuminator that we have not met yet at all, but we can assume that he is able to dual wield ruby and emerald inks because you see his two glimmers there to the side of him, Peter Pan and Pegasus, which are cards that we got as connecting art in this newest set, Wilds Unknown. The story itself, or this lore book, is going to be a lore book that Shanze finds. And then she will be essentially reading through this lore book, and we will be learning about this ancient Illuminator because this is an Illuminator from a time before, a time past and previous to where we currently are within the Disney Lorcana story. And we'll learn about some tragic betrayals and some mysterious affairs and stuff that happened with this Illuminator as he was searching for his mentor, Arcasia, which is crazy because before Fabled released, you and I had this prediction of we're going to have some timey-wimey shenanigans take place. And we even saw in Arcasia's lore cards that she has worked with Illuminators in the past, and something crazy happened. Something bad happened. Now, this product here, this book, this Quest of Wonders and Illuminators lore book, can give us some insight as to what happened in the past where with those Illuminators and Arcasia, that was so bad. And the big thing for me here is we don't have the images, but Lorcana, right around the time of Gen Con last year, I think we were even at Gen Con whenever these products first popped up, but they were the puzzles. We got to see them for the first time. And there were 6 different puzzles, each one representing a different ink color, and hidden within those were special like ink casters. And you see like Arcasia's in the emerald, Martin's in the amber, stuff like that, so on, so on, so on. The only 2 we have yet to see are the ruby and still. Yet on the cover of this book here, the main Illuminator is holding the ruby ink caster that kind of looks like a pen. And then this female Illuminator up top riding the magic carpet is holding the ink caster that we saw in the still puzzle. So I'm curious to see what happens between these 2 here. And I love this Hades glimmer, man. Yeah, the Arcasia logo, which we love because we also know that that was their mentor. But then this Hades glimmer over here on the top left of this book, this looks like the Hades. I don't know if it was a Floodboard or not. I think it was all the way back from the first chapter. We haven't seen him in a long time. He's like he's a king of some sort. King of Olympus.
Yes, he was a set 1 King of Olympus Floodborn.
So not saying that he's going to be reprinted, but I mean, it would be amazing to see him come back, right? And play into like some villain decks and stuff. This is awesome. And just story-wise from Lorcana, I'm super excited to see where they go from here because yes, we have been since the first chapter following the story of our 3 main Illuminators, Shanze, Venturo, and Martin. But as soon as Attack of the Vine comes out and it ends and we've battled this vine, we kind of have to start a new story arc. What's not to say with this next story arc of Disney Lorcana that it doesn't take place current, right? Following those same 3 Illuminaires, but allows us to go back in time whenever... What is the name of that other set that comes out after Attack of the Vine? The one with the city.
Hyperia
with Coco and stuff in it. Hyperia City. What's not to say that Hyperia City is going to go back in time, and that will be a story arc covering those Illuminaires of the past, the ones that we're learning about in this book, the ones who Arcasia, she was the mentor of. Just food for thought.
Pulling up the splash art of Hyperia. Yeah, nothing that can indicate, because I was looking to see like if we saw somebody that would like indicate what time era the set is in, like a glimmer or something like that. We can't see
Yeah,
that.
you really can't tell. But I
But
mean,
you
it's
get a
the fact
promo
that we
card with
haven't
it.
seen yet this product. Yes, you get a promo card
Yeah.
with it. No telling what that promo card will be. And then I believe that the Hyperia City on Disney Lorcana's website also talks about some mysterious affairs taking place in the back streets and stuff, which would fit perfectly along with this product and the story that they're trying to tell here. Just you know me, I'm here for the lore too, not just the fancy cardboard and the amazing Disney characters and the IP and franchises that we all love, but the overall story that they are winding, like these vines that are wound their way through all of the realm of Lorcana. Just that overarching story in general, absolutely love it. I'm here for it. Can't wait to see what they do next.
Can we get Ryan Miller to
That
do the
being said,
audiobook version, please? I want
I'm
Ryan
sorry, what
Miller
was
to
that?
I want Ryan Miller to do the audiobook version. I think that'd be fun.
Oh my
But
gosh, that would be fantastic.
that'd be fun. But because I don't read as much as I should. I'm an audiobook person. My wife's an audiobook person, but I think Ryan really is the embodiment of like Lorcana, and just I don't think he's ever done any professional voiceover work before, but I think that would just be really fun to have. But I would like to see an
Yeah,
audiobook
just like
version of it. So
a narrator overall, just narrating the entire thing. That'd be
because that's what I think.
fantastic.
Whenever I think about the original Lumineers and the original stories, I think of Ryan. Although that's not Ryan's role, other than being, I forget what title he is at this point. But Um, but to round out, it shows a little bit different because it's been a little light on the news, and we've been actually really fun to kind of talk about things that we haven't really had a chance to revisit or talk about. Yeah, we had a few things coming up, but we really had a chance to talk about what's really been happening with our communities and whatnot. But at the beginning of the year, I opened up the can of worms and I was like, all right, folks, what do we want to see in 2026? And now that we are halfway through the year at this point, kind of state of the game, where we're at, how things are going. I think the big thing is rotation too. Obviously, is probably the biggest thing to happen this year. Comes in 8 weeks at this point. I forget.
I believe
But
so, 7 or 8 weeks. Attack of the Vine, release date. Blah, 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 blah.
July 14th or 19th, I forget which one. It's coming up soon. Something like that.
Yeah,
But
the
I
13th.
I think something that we want to take a look at, and something that has continued to be a point of conversation online, not necessarily with, well, a little bit with us locally, but online has just been the health of local play scenes, because I think there's no mistake that CCQs and those larger events are doing really well. DLCs are still selling out and doing really well. But the lifeblood of the game is what's happening at the kitchen table with friends and family, and what's happening at local game shops week in and week out. And I think locally, at least for us here, we're pretty healthy. We have a pretty steady attendance. We're doing the fun things like Infinity and Beyond.
Yeah, I think we have like 13 to 14 people averaging a week at weekly play. Sometimes higher. Other times, whenever it's a holiday weekend or something, or just stuff's going on locally, you might get 6 to 8. But I mean, we're averaging a excellent amount of players at our home LGS per se, in an area that needs it. Um, my thing with it is I would like to see more kids personally, and this is just talking locally where we're at and stuff. It's hard to have a third space. There are so many
Oh yeah.
kids and people in general that, if unless it's sports, you really don't have much to go home to. or you don't have other things you do, and that's when people end up getting in trouble or running with the wrong crowd or picking up bad habits and stuff. It's because they don't have something fun and a safe third space to go hang out in and do stuff with us. So I mean that's why I've just absolutely loved the community and stuff that we have slowly built up and how it's going.
I love that you mentioned
But
third space because that's like a YouTube rabbit hole thing that I watched like a long time ago. I was like, this is third spaces is something outside of home and outside of work or school that you're supposed to go to. Unfortunately, the death of third spaces has been a lot of third spaces require money. Malls in the early 2000s was a lot of people's
mhm.
third spaces. But naturally, as economics and other things change, malls became less and less of a third space because it became a third space of people who have money to spend. And that's not necessarily a third space for everybody, like a park or something like that. But right now, that's the third space. But in the thing that I mentioned is in Central West Virginia, we have one, two, three. We have five local game shops, probably within a 30-minute circumference radius, if you will, from
We're
us, which is a
catching up
lot
to
for
the
West
churches and
Virginia.
Dollar Generals.
Yeah,
We're
right,
getting there.
right. It's we have at least five local game shops that are actively carrying Lorcana and are hosting Lorcana events to some degree. We have our first local 1K outside of a convention last year that had a cash event that's hosting it. So of Central West Virginia of all places, we're kind of spoiled because we have a lot of options.
But at the end of the day, I think the big complaint that we do have is that the communities and stuff that we're building, even in our somewhat rural area that we are at, that's not necessarily translating to other areas within the US, much less the rest of the world. And it seems to be bolstered by us and the local game shops themselves and just the communities in their own little pockets, because we feel that Ravensburger and the team, as much as they have done with the new pre-release packs, fantastic. Again, we'll say it. It's the best thing that they have done since this game has released. Um, Pre-release weekend, or not pre-release, Infinity weekend that they hosted to give out those whole new world promos, all the way back to Valentine's Day last year, right? John's birthday. So they had
Free
that
pack
special
rush.
event where, yeah, free pack rush, where they sent packs to the local LGSs and stuff to where they could use those for that pack rush. The coolest thing they've done this time around is these jumbo size cards, which we really haven't talked about either. But seeing, I don't not every store is even getting those either, right? Like it
You
seems
get
like
them in
only
winter spell.
certain areas and certain stores are. We didn't for Winter Spell. I mean, heck, we made our own. So that's great. But whenever it comes to the weekly play side of things, as much as we praise Coop, as much as we praise the team for CCQs, CCQs are really just piggybacking off of what other communities and LGSs seem to be doing, for one. But the competitive side of Lorcana, it's being taken care of. Now we have to turn our attention to your primary audience, because whether you like it or not, and the people listening here, they might not actually understand this because the people that listen to us are deep into the trenches whenever it comes to Lorcana. But the competitive side is only a small percentage of the player base that actually makes up this game. Because the true majority of these players are first time CCG players, the people that are here for Disney, and the rest of the casual audience, whether you're collecting or you're just here for Disney in general, those are the primary people and your primary audience.
And it's an ecosystem. You need everything in order for a game to be successful.
Yep. They've done great with the pull rates, because now that barrier of entry is now kind of like the game's easier to access. It's easier to get into. And we hope that it stays that way. But now you have to truly focus on your organized play at the local game shop level. and build from there, because that's your foundation, right? Everything starts at the LGSs. I mean, technically it starts at your printing facilities, but then goes to organized play and then moves up from there. So you have to take care of your foundation and your core first and foremost. So what are they doing or what are they not doing? I guess is the big
Yeah.
question. You have more to say about this than I do.
No, it's not necessarily that I have more to say, but it's something that as somebody who hasn't necessarily played other TCGs, but watches how other TCGs do weekly play and events, it has me going, man, I wish Lorcana did something like that. I think the big thing is that we have, granted, the pre-release kits were great, but that is for pre-release. That's not something that is going to be a recurring thing week over week. But I think the big thing is that we have seen a little bit of a reduction in terms of what is incentivizing people to go out to local game shops. And I saw a thread on Reddit last night or Facebook, whichever one, and it's a thread that we've seen before of what does Lorcana look like in your local communities. And I saw some in my Instagram feed, I was scrolling through, it's like, how store owners react to people asking for TCGs. And they're like, Lorcana, yeah, we don't carry that anymore and stuff like that. And you've seen again a continued reduction of people claiming that Lorcana either isn't firing in their local game shops or the game shops have just stopped carrying it altogether. And I think and again, we're needy players. Like we want, we want more and more and more. But now more than ever, I feel like what needs to happen is a little bit of life breathed into the OP kits and what is available to players on a weekly basis. Because we used to get character pins. They stopped doing that. We used to get ink pins, a pin for each ink logo. This is the last one. We have steel and it is done. We have stickers.
If you were even lucky enough to get them in Sapphire, right? Because not every
Right.
store got them then.
And also, there's not enough for everybody. If you have a local game shop that has consistently 10 to 15 players, we do good to make sure that, people are taken care of. My wife and I, we don't need 2 pins, right? We just need 1. We win a raffle.
I have 4 people attending every week, right? We just need 1 for the household. So if we randomly get selected, if one member of my family does, and we already have it, we're passing it along to the next person.
Yeah. We're making sure that people are taken care of. But again, there's only so many to go around. They're not as abundant as what the promos and what the previous pins were. But I think now more than ever, obviously, at least I think, I don't want to speak for John because I know we had a pretty good topic about this at the beginning of the year, but we primarily go for the camaraderie at this point. We have built friends. It is our decompression point of Saturday of the week, but still, to kind of quote John, there are 3 promos in the OP kit, and usually is a 3-month rotation. So
typically, and he's driving. What did he say? 110 miles, 120 miles round trip, because you go back to that conversation or topic of third spaces. Not everybody is fortunate enough to have those third spaces. Yes, you and John probably passed 2 of them along your way to get to come hang out with me, but other people aren't as fortunate. We just had some people come to our set champs that went 2 hours out of the way to come to our set champs because they said that they don't have stores around to play.
But so we're not going to talk about the set championships because again, that's a different ballpark with the mats and But but now it's like, if we look at the OP kits, we get 3 promos. But again, depending on your attendance, you may not get a promo every week because it's a raffle system. It's a lottery system. You get stickers, which is generally abundant. You get a lore spinner, but there's only a few lore spinners in there, and then you get the ink pins, and then the box. There may be only so many boxes, and they stopped doing the ink colors of the boxes. They started doing splash art, which is still cool. But again, there's only so much of it to go around. And if you are attending a weekly play that consistently gets 15, 20 plus people, which is very possible for other areas, there may be a moment where the store may give you a pack for showing up and paying $5, whatever. but there's a possibility you may not get anything else, and not necessarily from a everyone needs something mentality, but looking at the contents, there's a total of 30 promos of each. So there's 90 promos, two of which are supposed to be distributed each week. There's 12 boxes, 12 touch the sky lore spinners, 300 touch the sky stickers, and 8 ink pens. And it's supposed to last an entire set. But again, um, there's 3 promos and usually a 3-month rotation. So I think what we're trying to get at, and something that I'm officially on board of, is this idea of a weekly play or organized play prize pack that other TCGs have done or have come out after Lorcana and are automatically doing here as well. And for those that may not be familiar with the concept, I believe we have a photo of, I believe, Riftbounds, which isn't as like flashy as like Pokemon's. But the idea behind their prize pack, which they call Nexus Nights, is at a local game shop and a lot of places, you pay $5 to $7 for weekly play. You get access to however the store distributes the OP kit stuff, and then you get a regular booster pack. The idea behind these prize packs is, at least for Riftbound, you get 3 cards, and of those 3 random promos, it's a pool of 25 promo cards, rainbow foil and stamped, and could include reprints from older sets. And John, maybe this is more of a question for you as well, because you've been touting this flag for a while. I think this is I think this is the inevitable next step that I think Lorcana needs to take.
Yeah, I agree. I don't see. I would think it was crazy if they weren't. Pokemon does it. Riftbound does it. I don't know if Magic does it. Star Wars does it. Everybody does it. You know, and I think that's a good incentive for people to come play, more so than just a pack. Like, you know, I don't mind paying the $5 and not even getting a pack, to be honest with you, because I don't need any of the cards. I literally have completed my entire play set, so I literally open them up, and if it's not a foil that I need to put in the set, if it's not an epic or an enchanted, I just give them away. You know, I give them to somebody that's
not every store gets that pack along
right.
with it once you pay your entry fee to play or whatever. I mean, we're fortunate enough to have a store that gives us a booster pack of saying, "Oh, you're participating. You paid $5. Here you go."
Right. Yeah. But I mean, I think the packs and rotated every set is the way to go. And you talk about value. Some of those Pokemon promo packs go for a stupid amount of money years after, because there's some cards you just could never get that were only available in those price packs. You know, so.
And I think a lot
Yeah, and I
of
think
it
it'll be a different
Go on.
approach, right? If
Yeah.
hypothetically, the way that it would work is if we had prize packs like this, it wouldn't be a thing of this is the only way you can get this card. It'll never be that. You'll always have access to these exact same cards from your
Right.
regular booster packs, your boxes, everything else. But it'll be that the special way in which they change it up, whether it's the foiling, it is a alternative art which we've asked for.
Yeah.
Yes, at the end of the day, that would be an amazing thing for the players who are coming to your weekly play. And as you said, awesome, amazing idea for collectors overall. I'm sure there are plenty of people collector wise that could get behind that as well.
Yeah.
And this isn't an unfamiliar or uncharted territory for Lorcana because they've done something very similar already. For one, I mean, you talk about pre-release, how we went from having one participation promo that you would get from playing in a pre-release event to now having access to up to 6 different promos that you can get from pre-release in those kits. But over in other markets, we've actually seen prize packs very similar to these other TCGs that were specifically Lorcana ones. Because our Japanese friends, as they were playing catch up and they did not have Fabled release in their market or in their area, they actually did have some of these prize packs here. I forget how many actually came in these prize packs, and I believe that the Fable ones may have actually been the second iteration or the second volume of these prize packs, because they had some prior to that as well for a different set. But this is something that you would play. You would have your weekly play and get this, or maybe it was like when you bought a booster box or something, you would get one of these with it as well. Either way, they have done this in other areas. Lorcana has seen prize packs, and they've done it. So, what's preventing them per se? What barrier of entry do they have everywhere else from creating this outside of production?
Because we know that they give away the OP kits. They do not, to my understanding, they do not charge the stores for the set championship stuff or the OP kit stuff, the box of goodies you get at the beginning of a set. So obviously they're running it at a loss to some degree because they're doing this to stimulate it. And make no mistake, like the fact that they're providing stuff already is already great, but it's just, I don't want to say it's not enough because that makes us sound very greedy, but it's just there needs to be a little bit of stimulation in that area. And outside of just pure production and running it at a loss, I can't think of anything else because again, they've toyed around at least with similar concepts already. Um, I think if everyone had access to a pool of 25 promo cards, I think that would reinforce the people coming out because again, not every local game shop has a Preston, Dylan, and John of doing
We're
these
not even
things.
25, right? I
Yeah,
mean, yeah. So even if you would break it down, let's say 12, right?
yeah.
You had 12 promo cards. You're not even guaranteed to get all 12 over a 3-month cycle of a typical set that only lasts 3 months.
It feels good. Like
Yeah.
it's that dopamine hit and people it kind of goes back to the set championship thing, right? Why they started doing the participation promos. We saw a
Hmm.
dramatic dip of participation because you could walk away with nothing. And I think this is just something that needs to take place. But I think the biggest thing that even I don't even have an insight on is if they were to do this, could this revive markets where Lorcana is not firing? I think is the big question. I don't know what the answer to that is. I don't know if that could move the needle for other markets.
I don't know, because you still have to inform people about it. And it seems like those
Yeah.
markets, if nobody's playing, how's that information getting shared or
And
spread?
I want to make one thing very clear. We are not saying that the game is dying because it's not. It is the furthest thing
Absolutely
from
not.
dying. It is the furthest thing from it. But we look out for Illumineers at large because again, we're very spoiled. We have a lot of options. We have a very healthy and dedicated community. But there's a lot of communities where it is just people show up, they play, and they leave, and they move about. So it's all about that player experience. The unboxing experience this time around with increased pull rates is it better. The pre-release experience was a lot better with the pre-release boxes. But right now, I think something that has grown a little stale and has seen reductions is that weekly OP play. And I think if I were king for a day, that would be what's in my crosshairs. Is okay. How can we stimulate this a little bit? Because again, at the end of the day, it is a business. We are a consumer of a business, of a product of a game that is a hobby to us. Um, but if we have people coming out and attending these things, yeah, I think is the inevitable next step. We need a little bit more stimulation at the local play level to kind of revitalize things a little bit. Because again, it goes back to Fabled. We are entering the long haul. We have passed the newness era of the game. We are in the long haul. And kind of the last thing, and I think something that I think we might have talked about on our unboxings is these foil playmats. Um, the foil playmats, the Buzz and Woody. I think we have the Pooh art one. for Attack of the Vine coming up. These are the foil playmats that you can only get at select Disney experiences, and they don't even list where you can find them. I think it's just up to the social media pages of Disney Springs or Downtown Disney to post. These foil playmats are beautiful, stunning, but unless if you live local to one of the places that have this, or if you don't know somebody who's willing to do you a solid, you're looking at resale values of well over $100 for these playmats. And as the Toy Story crazy person in me, who just I need all Lorcana Toy Story things, I'm just not thrilled about these. Really, it feels icky. But I guess that's there is a secondary market for everything. But it just feels icky that the resale prices and the availability of this isn't a little bit more widespread. I don't know what your all's feelings on that is. It sucks to me. And
Personally, I don't care. It's yeah, I
you're
mean
not a playmat
you're
person.
right. I'm not right. I use my playmats, but I've also stated that this Winnie the Pooh one, even though I currently do not own any Disney Lorcana playmats outside of the Brave Little Prince, it's not even my playmat. That's my son's playmat. This Winnie the Pooh one, this might be one of the ones that I would kind of ooh and ah after and chase after. I'm not a big fan of the foiling. John can attest to that. The foiling that we are seeing on these playmats is
That's what I was.
not the best quality.
That's what I was just going to say. Is yeah, they're pretty playmats, but the foiling, boo.
They don't hold up
Boo.
in play, right?
Well, not
These
just
seem
that.
to be
There's
more
not
collector's
enough
items.
of it. There's not enough of it. Not enough to justify the craziness for it. You have
The resale price.
After I saw the Prince the Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse one, I was unimpressed. I was just unimpressed. I mean, the foiling on it was just. What's that? Say it again.
$35, by the way, just for context.
Yeah, $35. Yeah, I just no. If I paid $150,
if you're going to get it for $35,
yeah,
sure,
fine.
But the resale prices.
If I paid $150 for it, I would have instant regret.
Attested to that.
Instant regret.
Yeah, it's rough
because it's
just. And this is just we see it across all pop culture, right? This is our first taste within Lorcana. We asked for this. We wanted Lorcana in the parks. Now we're getting it, but then it becomes a collector's thing. It's a Disney thing overall. You see it with the pins. You see it with the popcorn buckets. You see it everywhere else. Yep. Now we just don't like it because our baby is getting involved. And it's like, it's not even scalper mentality whenever it comes to the cards, but now it's just overall, man, these Disney guys are coming along and swooping up everything and reselling it. It's like, how dare you act like the rest of these scalpers?
And I think the biggest thing that I'm saying for that point is we know that there's better ways to do it because they already do it with other playmats via a lottery system to sell.
Sure.
I think that's my biggest angle I'm coming at is I think this set, it's the Rapunzel playmat that is the lottery system. Last set was the Belle Hidden Archer, I think. Mm-hmm. So they've done this before. Like there's two playmats out right now. You can go get Super Goof and Merida. But Rapunzel, you have to enter an equal, their lottery system, to have the opportunity to purchase it. And I don't know. I mean, obviously, there are always going to be exclusives, right? There's always going to be exclusives at the parks and other things like that. But I think I don't know if they'll ever do this because they're probably not. This is just wishful thinking. But from a mid-year pulse check, as somebody who would really like one of these foil playmats at MSRP and not paying resale prices, I don't know if there's a production constraint, but I would love to at least, even if the odds are low, I would still at least like an opportunity to enter a lottery to have an opportunity to purchase one of these playmats. And I think a lot of people would like
the closest thing that I can think in this scenario is not necessarily the playmats that we were currently talking about with like the Rapunzel and the Belle Hidden Archer and stuff, but the D23 boxes. That was a Disney exclusive, right? Those D23 collector's boxes were Disney exclusives that you could get at D23. They popped up at Downtown Disney, places like that, and you can get them there. It's the only place you can get them. But then later on, they actually had a lottery for that Disney exclusive product. I think Ravensburger themselves ran that through Bright
it
or
was a stake
somebody.
system.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, being hopeful, maybe that happens down the line. I don't have the math or remember off the top of my head the gap between the time that those D23 boxes were released and the time that they actually did the lottery, and the playmats might not actually see that. But we'll see. We're hopeful. I get where you're coming from.
Yeah. But no, and we say this just to kind of like pulse check because the game is still fun. You know, we got rotation number 2 coming up. Like from a gameplay perspective, I'm pretty satisfied both with Core and Infinity right now. But I think we care a lot, a lot because we want this game to be around for years, and you know
We've spent too much money for this game to die off.
this iconic Moana on the wall is the episode. No, just kidding. We care a lot, and we just want the overall experience for all players to be as fair as accessible as possible. And we know that we're not going to get that with everything, right? We're not going to get raffles for magical places promos like that. That's not going to happen. It defeats the whole purpose. But it comes out of a deep place of love, and it's very minor things, right? Like we could be complaining about how the game is like watching 2 fish fight in a fish tank. I don't know. It's not like there from a lot of it is just how can we stimulate the community where it's needed. I think is the overall arching conversation point. But I digress. We'll see. Attack of the Vines coming very soon. But I think with that, it's funny because last night we were talking like, oh, this is going to be a different episode because not a lot of news. No, we are certified yappers. We can talk about everything. But I think that does it for this episode of the Ink Table. 25 episodes, which is wild. So thanks all for tuning in. A little bit of housekeeping here before we go. One, as usual, thanks for listening. Thanks for your time for the 2 hours we've been talking with you. Hope in your car, at work, what have you. We hope you've enjoyed it. You can contact us for business inquiries, whatever, if you want to talk to us, whatever. Podcast at theinktable.com. Merch shop link down in the description, theinktable-shop.fourthwall.com. Got to get stocked up for Gen Con. I have my cart ready, to say the least. So we'll be hashtag dripped out. We'll be on Lorcana Fits with Aladdin's Castle by the end of the time. So love that series. All links down inside the description, TikTok, the Gram, Facebook. You can see John Whiff on another TikTok box in Attack of the Vine next month, or 2 months from now, probably. But everything linked down inside the description. Also, help us reach 500 subscribers on YouTube. We have officially passed 400 last week on YouTube. We are on a grind to 500. You can see that linked, or just go to YouTube and search the Ink Table Podcast. Also, if you're listening to the audio version on your podcatcher of choice, consider subscribing, liking, following the podcast. Leave us a review on your platform of choice. Helps us get more visibility, helps us get more listeners, more than you could ever know. But for now, we will go back into the jungle of Wilds Unknown. We will see you back here next month for our June episode. And also be sure to check out our weekly unboxings of 1 box a week every Friday on the YouTube channel. And more importantly, no matter who you are, what brings you to the realm of Lorcana, there will always be a seat for you at the Ink Table. Until June, folks. Talk soon.
Bye, guys.
This podcast is part of the Gamers Lounge Radio Network. Get more gaming news and shows at www.the-gamers-lounge.com.